Is it live or are we live? We are live! Holy smoke, it worked and we're online. We are live. Hello, folks, and welcome to Monday Night Chaos. I'm your intrepid host, Yellkaos. You knew that. You knew that because you come here every single time to listen to my stuff, and I really appreciate that. I want you to know that I do. I tell you that every single week because there's a lot of places you could be on a Monday night. Not necessarily here, but I'm sure there are other places you could be. So, yes, we are live like we are every week right here on Monday Night Chaos. And you fine folks dropping in and listening to my stuff, and I really appreciate it, as I say every single week, at least once or twice. But I want you to know that we got a halfway decent show for you, at least I hope we do. We got a few things to talk about. And then we're going to go to the board, and we're going to take some questions from you fine folks. Well, he's got great questions, but I want to open up this segment of Monday Night Chaos by, well, first I want to remind each and every one of you that you can drop questions down below or in the space provided, or you can drop them on the Facebook over there. Follow me on Facebook, Yellkaos. And if you feel you're not getting your questions answered over there, just go ahead and drop over to the twitter.com if you're on the Twitter there, Twitter at Yellkaos. And if you just want to sit there and clean your games or whatever and listen to the sultry sounds of my voice, that's okay too. We can have that. That's perfectly fine. You know, we strive to make a quality product, and I hope that all parties and all corners of the market are safe. That's what we aim to do right here on Monday Night Chaos. But now that I've done the usual plugging, we're going to get right to the meat of something that's kind of been bugging me. And there's somebody, I was going to throw him under the bus that inspired this little piece right here, but I'm not. He knows who he is. But there was a, you know what, I'm not going to lead in like that. I'm just going to tell you the way that I feel that this should be said. Haven't we had enough of this fucking ice bucket challenge thing? Really? Because, and now I'm probably going to sound like an old man, an old curmudgeon saying, oh, well, these young people doing this horrible thing, but I have no interest in if you think that I come from the 19th century. That's neither here nor there. I don't think you'd call me an old codger because I don't think any of you folks are old enough to know what a codger is. So, therefore, we've got our bases covered in that regard. But the Ice Bucket Challenge. Now, the Ice Bucket Challenge, if you didn't know, and I'm sure you know because it's all over the goddamn planet. It's on the television. I know that because my mother-in-law talks about it. And if my mother-in-law talks about it, it must have been on the TV. And it's on your YouTube, and it's in your Facebook feed, it's in your Twitter stream, blah, 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 the Ice Bucket Challenge, spreading awareness about ALS. If you didn't know about ALS, I forget what ALS stands for at this particular juncture, but are we having errors? Are we having errors? I don't think we're having errors. YouTube is informing me that we're having errors. Is that true? No, that's not true at all. See, what a bunch of crap. Anyway, ALS, I forget specifically what ALS stands for, but the Ice Bucket Challenge is to bring notoriety, notice to Lou Gehrig's disease. Not the first guy to contract the disease, but the first person of note to really be affected by ALS. And the Ice Bucket Challenge is to bring awareness and hopefully to get people to donate money to the ALS Foundation, which is fine until you really stop and consider what we're doing. Yes, I understand, and people are going to come at me. I know immediately. The first thing you're going to say is, well, ALS is a terrible disease and things should be done to bring awareness and spread awareness. That way they can include funding. It's like, yeah, that also means that you're going to be paying salaries of marketing people and the doctors who work for the ALS Foundation. I'm not saying that they're bad people, but that's where your money's going. But more importantly, there's people that say we need to do something about ALS, something about Lou Gehrig's disease, and the Ice Bucket Challenge is the best way to bring awareness to. Is like, well, you know what? There are bigger problems than ALS. I agree. ALS is a terrible disease, and it has afflicted many people from my corner of the woods, and I mean people who use their hands, people that play instruments for a living. A notable case is Mr. Jason Becker from Cacophony, who later was to play for David Lee Roth when David Lee Roth had kind of made the shift away from Van Halen. Then shortly thereafter, Mr. Becker was affected by ALS being a neurological disorder that affects the motor skills. Hence, Mr. Jason Becker, who was at one time one of the world's most prolific rock and roll guitar players, now no longer possesses the motor skills provided by his brain to move his fingers, his hands, his arms, his legs, any part of his body. He can only communicate by way of his eyeballs. It's a terrible disorder, and I understand that. But you're taking the Ice Bucket Challenge to show off ALS as what a horrible disease it is, when a far bigger affliction to the human race is pockets of people on this planet, this modern planet that you suspect that you live on, where people cannot get clean water. And you're pouring ice-cold gallons of perfectly good clean water on your head because it's brisk, and to bring attention to a disease that doesn't affect nearly as many people as those that are affected by not having clean water in many parts of this planet. You know, so before you brush over all this, you know, nonsense and sweep all that shit under the rug, I want to make that very clear. Also, I'm seeing a lot of this in people in California. I live in California. 3 years in a drought, and people have gallons upon gallons of water to pour on their head for their friends on Facebook, or for fuckers like Triple H and all these celebrities doing it, to make sure you know that they're still alive and they care. They don't care. They want to be relevant, and they want to stay within social media, and that's what's really cool right now. I could think of other examples, but right now I'm just steaming. God damn it. So yeah, I've had it, and I'm not telling you what to do with your life and how you should feel, but I have had it with the ALS. Not the ALS Foundation in particular, though I'm sure I could find something to dislike about those people. But the Ice Bucket Challenge is a bunch of shit. It's irresponsible, and it really shows the ignorance of the machine that is designed to market these diseases. Just like the Make-A-Wish Foundation and all that shit. That's a bunch of bureaucracy. That's a bunch of people who make $60,000 and $70,000 a year, which is not a shit ton of money, make no mistake about it, but a lot of people get paid pretty decent wages to remind you of the afflictions of others. They take advantage of you. They exploit your, they pull the heartstrings. Don't let people like that get under your skin. So, yeah, the Ice Bucket Challenge, I guess it was a nice idea, and now it is, in such a short time, too, something that probably had, you know, no malevolent intentions, has just become this thing in such a short amount of time that it's just amazing. It would be interesting if we were actually having a dialogue about the affliction that is ALS, but no. You have faces on cameras, just like you had with every other thing before it. Anytime there was ever movement like the Coney 2012 bullshit, people were happy to put a fucking sticker, you know, and be part of a fashion movement, just like that thing for the two or the equal marriage for gay people thing, whatever that was, and that, you know, that was a fashion statement. And it was used masquerading as change. Similarly to the way that people thought that when Barack Obama was elected president, that things were going to be just fine overnight. You bought into a fashion statement. Sorry to open it up with such a downer, but we're going to pick things back up again because I get this question a lot. I want to shift right into something else. That way we can kind of lighten the mood because I had to get that off my chest. That way we can, you know, we had to get through the hard part to make this show really worthwhile, at least tonight. Because if you didn't know it, we are only 2 weeks away, a little less than 2 weeks away, actually, I think, from, or sorry, a little over 2 weeks away from the Classic Gaming Expo in Las Vegas, Nevada. So, you know, I just thought I'd bring that up because, I don't know, Suge Knight got shot earlier in the week, and for some reason, rappers and people associated with rap music getting shot always makes me think of Las Vegas. I know it sounds awful, I know it does, but that's just the way things are. And we hope that Suge doesn't die, you know, because if you die, then you can't learn anything. So we hope that Suge Knight makes a recovery and learns. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that. But I want to talk about people always want me to rant about resellers of vintage video games or retro video games. And I don't know if you know this, and I really am thankful that you guys think so highly of me and present these things to me and say, Yellkaos, you should say this because, and usually, you know, people tell me this because they feel that they wouldn't be able to encapsulate their rage as well as apparently I could. I don't know how I can encapsulate your rage, but there's a number of people that have sent me that. Lots of people. I mean, dozens. Well, I'm not going to say like hundreds of people, but dozens. Quite literally dozens of people. And I don't know if you know this, but that is like a genre of video here on YouTube now. You know, there seems to be, because when I first got involved around here in the online gaming thing, when I first came along, it was you had a gaming channel and you either showed off new games or you showed off retro games, because that was getting to be a thing because of James Rolfe and other people and their hard work, supposedly. And then there were people that were kind of hybrids of the two, and I think I came in around the time when commentators were kind of becoming coming into their own, and which was, you know, quite a few years ago, going on like 5 or so years now. And anyway, so now there's genres of channels. There's channels that are specifically dedicated to showing you what they do at the swap meet or the flea market. And then there's people that go to the thrift stores. And then there's people that dive in dumpsters at GameStop and things like that. And these are like now genres, and I think that's very interesting. And I found that there is an entire group of content providers, commentators, that's their whole gimmick, is hating on resellers. But so I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. But I will provide this. I've heard a number of folks just like me, a number of personalities, and also in the comment section. I read the comment sections on certain videos and in some of the boards and things as best I can. I tried some of the websites, and apparently a lot of people feel, or when something that I've tried my hardest not to do. I swear I'm coming around to a point. One thing I've tried hardest not to do when I go to the flea market, when I go to the swap meet, when I go to the thrift store, when I go to the game stores, I try not to wear any video game paraphernalia, because what that does, that sends up a flag to people that are in the know, even people that are only slightly in the know, people that can recognize logos. That sends up a flag that you know what you're talking about, and you're probably going to be a tough customer, and they'll be real stiff with you, because, you know, and they'll try and learn from you too. If you say anything about price, they'll try and learn from you and things like that, which is important. That's part of doing business. But I try my hardest, especially when there's resellers at the flea markets and so on, you know, people that sell specifically video games. I try and ambush them and present myself as just an ordinary, you know, because I don't know if I do, but I imagine I could pass myself off for just, you know, ordinary, you know, early 30s, father of two, kind of bumbleheaded, don't know what I'm talking about, but just shopping at the swap meet. At least I try. But I try not to let out that I know what I'm talking about. And a number of commentators and people on the scene talk about being asked, being quizzed by the resellers, and usually the dirtbags in the thrift stores, of how they should price their games. And it's like, well, number one, you're a thrift store, so you should probably price them, oh, I don't know, thriftily. You know, something, you know, because the whole purpose of a thrift store is, you know, to bring money in for the charity you're working for, unless, of course, you're Goodwill. And Goodwill is not a charity. We can talk about that some other time. But just so you know, and also, if you get curious, yeah, Goodwill Enterprises, or are they Goodwill Enterprises, or they're Goodwill Incorporated now, is not a charity. They just happen to have a, you know, they just happen to get people to donate shit to them. But anyway, and I realized quite a few times now, I've had that. I've had people who, like dudes in thrift stores typically, have figured out when they see me come in more than once or twice, and somehow they remember, sometimes they don't, and they ask me, hey, you know about this stuff? I'm like, well, not really. And I try and shoot straight as best I can and tell them that, well, if you really wanted big money for things, the time to do it was a couple of years ago, number one. And I also completely mislead them and try and tell them that all games are valueless, because that way it works out for me, you know. So my policy with resellers that ask you, and if you know, fuck them down to the ground, whatever. You know, they should be doing their own research, and they're probably going to do their research on eBay, and, you know, I've heard the defense that, well, I feel that, they're going to influence the market. It's like, they're not going to influence the market. If they're sitting on a bunch of product that's not selling, no matter how you look at a situation, loss is loss. A zero is a zero. If they're not selling, they will adjust. And if they don't, they're going to go out of business and take their retirement nest egg with them. So this goes in line with what I was talking about if you want to open a game store, don't. That's some of the best advice I can offer. If you want to open a game store, don't. So, anyway, as far as resellers, though, and they want advice, fuck them. That's nonsense that they want you to do the work. It's like, if they want to know prices, like this, you're in this to make money, well, so am I. I hate to be like that because I don't collect for value. I'm not one of those people. But it's like, hey, you are trying to take my hobby, and it's, a lot of people will attest to this. It's more than a hobby. It's almost kind of a way of life. And there's a number of people watching me right now who can attest to that it's kind of a way of life. Just like the kids that are into their rock and roll, going to the heavy metal shows and the punk rock shows. It's a way of life. And to some people that might sound sad, but fuck you. What are you going to do? You're going to go to a nightclub, pay $500 to get into a nightclub, pay $200 for a bottle of Jack Daniels and tell me that you've got some splendid life? You can kiss my dick. But back to the people, the nice people. It's a way of life. And I feel there's certain people. I'm not going to name one person, Greg Pabich. I'm going to name Greg Pabich. Fuck that guy in his ear. All right? If you don't remember the guy with the Cheetah Men scandal a few years ago, I hate to take time out of my program to pinpoint people like that, but those are the people that are ruining the hobby, that are ruining the lineage, because people like me, I collect for posterity's sake, for history. I want to have experienced as many video games as possible in my life. Now, I won't pay a lot of money for it because at the end of the day, they're just, they were product designed for profit. And they usually took the cheapest route to get to the end as possible. So I won't pay a lot of money for them, F them. But at the same time, I cannot stand by and let people abuse the history that is here and the people that make this history come alive. I can't stand for that sort of thing. So, sorry if I beat off. Got way off the beaten path there, beat off. What am I talking about? It's getting nasty in here. My goodness gracious. But anyway, so that's the way I feel about resellers and stuff. It's like, you know what? You sort out your business on your own. If you want to pay me, on the other hand, that's completely different. And people who give up free information like that, you're good at something, never do it for free. That you can take to the bank. Anyway, speaking of taking to somewhere, we're going to go and check out the fine folks over here who are asking me questions down below, because I want to make sure that everyone gets their questions answered tonight. So, and thank you for joining us right here on Monday Night Chaos. Nicholas Kennedy is here, which is good. That's always good. The Ultra Brutal Fatality is here, and he's got a Bloodbath album on there. Is that Nightmares Made Flesh? He's got that one on there. He was using what was it, Death Spiritual Healing for a long time on there, but changed it up. That's okay. Got to change up every once in a while. Pardon me, had to have a drink of water. Let me see here. Melphis Sky is going on and on about Phil Fish. Are we still talking about Phil Fish? I know my very good friend Alpha Omega Sin. I know that he threw a video up last week about Phil Fish told a bunch of people to fuck off and you're not getting this game. And I've seen that Fez game, and if you're not getting another one, I don't know what you're so upset about. That'll just free up time to go play other games. And Phil Fish is a tool, and he also predicted the demise of the Nintendo 3DS, so it goes to show how much credibility there is on his side of the row. So yeah, I don't pay attention to... we're at that state where, if you look at the way history was going, game programmers, game designers almost had a chance at being rock stars like they wanted to be back in the 80s. And unfortunately, social media, they didn't know how to work the social media properly, and they worked it to make themselves, like Adam Orth and people like that, worked it, overexposed themselves, and turned out that they were complete douchebags, and you got to see every last bit of that. And I think that they missed a genuine opportunity. There's some out there that are treated like rock stars and are at least somewhat humble, One of them being Jules Watson from Renegade Kid. Now, I think that old Jules jumps to conclusions a bit much, but he's a person. You know, I'm not going to forgive him for that because that Cult County thing was a bit of a mess too. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, just type in Renegade Kid Cult County, and I can't explain all that. That was a Kickstarter that went wrong, and you know how I feel about the Kickstarters. But yeah, I'm not going to give any time to Phil Fish. He has a shitty name, and that alone, I think, you know, if his name was like Philip Fishbine or something, that seems like a cool name. But you know, Phil Fish, what, we're going to give him a sitcom now? Lewis Williams is here, and Kit 171 is here. I'm thankful they're here. You know, they're here all the time. They're good about clearing their schedule at a moment's notice, or they're just not doing anything on a Monday or Thursday, which is fine. Lewis Williams just got nominated for the Ice Bucket Challenge. Well, Lewis Williams, you do what you want. You're grown. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but frankly, anybody who nominates Yellkaos for the Ice Bucket Challenge is getting a big fat middle finger. I don't know how else to put it. Let me see here. Snotty Snotsborn wants to know my thoughts on Kai Hansen's work outside of Gamma Ray. Kai Hansen always comes up with this guy. You mean in Halloween, or his work as a producer? I like Kai Hansen in general. He seems like a really nice guy. I don't buy that he's a natural blonde, but maybe he is, you know. Between you guys I don't know if you know about my some of my previous musical work, which I know I got to share more of that on here. I'll get around to it, I swear. Hopefully very soon. Because those bands are full of old men, and it's hard getting them up and moving to make new material, so I'm going to have to share some old material. But anyway, Mr. Neil Hadley, the real deal Neil from Dracone, the thrash band that, for those of you who remember me from way back then, way back in the late 2000-somethings, Neil always said to me, he says, it takes a manly guy to play a pink guitar. And now this is when we went to see Gamma Ray at the Galaxy Theater in Santa Ana, California. And he said that to me across. He says, it takes a manly guy, it takes a real secure man to play a pink guitar. And I said, Neil, are you secure enough to play a pink guitar? And he looks away and he looks at me and he goes, no. And then he drank some beer, and that was kind of the end of the discussion. Then Kai Hansen reveals that he's blowing bubbles with his bubble gum. Blowing bubbles, playing that Heavy Metal Universe song, and got a pink ESP Rhodes V, offset V guitar. Takes a special kind of guy. I don't know if I could make that happen. I own a lavender, or I guess it's purple. I own a purple guitar, and that's not quite the same thing as pink. People who want to assume like purple and pink, nope. Completely different family, not the same thing. They might be slightly related to red, but they send a completely different message. But, yeah, and I don't know. As far as I know, though, Kai Hansen seems to be very secure in his manhood and can definitely play a pink guitar, and good for him. After all, he brought us to Heavy Metal Universe. So, let me see here. Keldeo the Horse says, what about me? I don't know. What the fuck about you? You have to be more specific. Josh Bond wants to know my thoughts about art colleges. Art colleges are really good if you are at least halfway decent at drawing, and you have an interest in heavy-set girls with large breasts who really just came there either to be expressive or to piss off their parents, or because they like manga. And usually the girls that are really into manga, though, are really skinny and what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of mousy, you know. They're dynamite in the sack too. So, because that's really the only reason you go to college, because I'll tell you this right now, and this is something I learned. I didn't take these are things I took for granted in high school and college, and also working in a big corporate environment. I used to work for Sega GameWorks. If you didn't know that, if you live in a town that has a GameWorks outlet, a GameWorks arcade, bar, restaurant place, those are partly owned by Sega now. Used to be a lot more involved in it, but now they've taken on extra partners. And anyway, they were going to take over the world, and I worked there for a brief time, or I worked there for quite a few years, actually. And I took for granted the idea, or at least the concept of all the girls being in one place. Because since then, I've worked in smaller places, which are mostly men. Places that need guys that can lift heavy things. That's been, the kind of places I've worked, where there's, mostly men, and the women are usually in office positions. And so I want to tell the guys that are in high school, that are in college, and that work in a place like this, a sort of a casual, big-time operation, take advantage of all the girls being in one place. I mean that. But yeah, art college is a great place to get your winky whacked if you're at least halfway decent at drawing. If you're not artistic even slightly, you're wasting your money because art girls are into dudes who can do something. Yeah. I don't really think that they're necessary to be an artist. If you want to be a graphic designer, that's great, but understand that in many major, because there's a push right now. Surveys are showing, and I mean lots of them are showing, that people are moving more towards city environments to get more city-oriented jobs. If you live within proximity of a major city and you want to be a graphic designer or something like that, you can go to one of those markets, pitch a nickel in any given crowded street, and you're going to hit a graphic designer. There's lots of graphic designers on the planet, so, I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying heed that warning. There's lots of people that want to do that too. If you feel you're exceptional, then go for it. Absolutely. If you're kind of on shaky ground, art college is not going to do it. Art college, you cannot teach that sort of thing. You have to have at least a little bit. You have to at least get yourself onto that boat. If you don't feel that that's really your thing, then go find your thing. It's probably in your pants. Which is why a lot of people just, settle down and fuck and have kids for a living. Sigma Sean wants to know what 3DS games would I recommend. Sigma Sean, I'm going to have to point you to my 3DS collection video because I went on and on about my 3DS. I love my 3DS. That's my primary gaming machine. So, yeah. Fantastic game. A game that doesn't get enough credit, both of the Steel Divers. If you want a game that's unlike any other and, you could really sink your teeth into, both of the Steel Diver games, Steel Diver and Steel Diver Sub Wars. They both take place in the Star Fox universe. I think they take place in the Seas of Corneria. So check those out. And don't buy Steel Diver digital because it'll be more expensive. Get it like Best Buy. It's like $4 used at Best Buy. I think it's like $10 new at Best Buy. So go grab that. And then in the eShop, the digital version is free, but the premium version is $10. So for a layout of $15, you get 2 really great games. So check those out. Especially if you're really into like naval warfare, if you're interested in that at all, they both of them make a great package and good online multiplayer. Let me see here. Thatcley Chill. Oh, I'm butchering that. Thatcley Chill says. He says, you kind of hit a creative rut. What's your advice for an amateur songwriter? Write the song that you want to hear. The best advice that I can give is listen to some songs you like. And when I say that, I don't mean if you're trying to write just a metal song, don't listen to just metal. It's good if you're trying to write in a certain style, listen to that, but also don't feel that you can't listen to some classical music if you come across, or some jazz music, or some pop music. You'd be surprised, but some of your best metal is very pop influenced. And, a good hook never killed anybody. It kills lame-ass people. But, yeah, listen to some music. And if you can't do that, then I recommend, if you really want to get into a songwriting mood that's going to really get the blood flowing, play a shooter, a horizontal scrolling shooter, like a Japanese scrolling shooter, like something from the Gradius series. That'll get you in the mood to make some music. It really will. And if that doesn't do it for you, then F-Zero on the Super Nintendo. That'll do it. Something. It'll do it, I promise. Havel the Rock wants to know if I ever heard of CEX, the Entertainment Exchange. No, I can't say that I have. Are they in Ohio? Sounds like something in Ohio. Kelly the Horse says that he does homework while watching Monday Night Chaos. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. You know, it's good to do your homework because, you know, you don't want to get in trouble with your folks or anything like that. And so, yeah. I'm going to scroll down here and make sure I didn't miss any questions. Let me see here. Oh, now, guys, I want to direct you down to the comments section because Kit171 is offering some fantastic, you know, game scoping advice, game scouting advice. He says he avoids wearing any kind of gaming search and such when he's looking for games, and he says that I'm right that it makes things difficult. It can, and he says he uses the tactic of acting disinterested, which is good for buying cars and guitars as well. Oh, and he mentioned used cars, so how about that? And he agrees with me about the thrift stores. Well, yeah. And the thrift stores seem to think they're sitting on gold. What they don't know is, well, they're actually starting a museum, and the resellers who don't research how the market works are going to soon be donating them back to the thrift store because they can't part with them. But yeah, that's good advice. You know, don't feed right into their stuff. Don't look too bright-eyed and bushy-tailed because those people that sell things for a living know how to exploit that. Let me see. Redshift 912 says he was about to pass out. Well, go ahead. Take off. It's all right. Go lay down. You know, the recording will be up in your sub box in the morning, and if not, come back and look for it. You know, and if I didn't get to your question, like I said, drop it down below, and I'll shoot an answer as soon as I can. I promise. So let me see here. William Paranello wants to know my favorite video game moment. Oh God, have you heard me go on about the moments? I don't know what you mean specifically by moments, because there's been a lot of great moments. There's been lots of great moments, and I could tell lots of great moments, but they're all escaping me right now. Oh well. Since we can't think of any moments, here's a Mario Kart. So there's that. Zotar the Mighty says, what do you think about the growing popularity of the fire challenge where kids light themselves on fire and put videos of it on Facebook? I have never been so in favor of a movement in my entire life. People setting themselves on fire, putting it on Facebook, it's really, I've always said that the world will love again. And if a bunch of people set themselves on fire, then, you know, you can love people who caught on fire because then they can't cause any trouble because they'll be in a burn unit. So I'm totally in favor of that. Absolutely. I think it's one of the greatest things ever to come to the internet, and I hope it gains the same amount of steam that the Ice Bucket Challenge has. Manic Maniac says, what do I think of 5150, the band, not the album? I thought you were talking about the amplifier. I'm not familiar with the band, actually. And as far as the album, it's okay. Let me see. Oh, Nicholas Kennedy says that's Resurrection Through Carnage. I knew I recognized the album from somewhere. There's so many album titles and album covers in my head. There's only so many. So, Kit171 says, the age-old question, soup or salad? Well, that all depends on what you have available for soup, what you have available for salad. It mostly depends on the soup, but it really depends. If you have a Caesar salad, I might go with Caesar salad. Depends on what I'm having. You know, that sort of thing. Sometimes I like a house salad. A house salad is, you know, lettuce and cabbage and onions and carrots and sometimes celery with Thousand Island dressing on it. Lewis Williams says he had a good birthday. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. He says he got drunk and woke up in the back of someone's car the next morning. Well, that's, I've done that. I've woke up in the back of my car for some reason. It happens. Now I'm thinking about all the horrible stuff I did in the backseat of that car. But, Lewis, I hope that your butt doesn't hurt. And if it does, then I hope it was with someone that you cared for and trusted. So. Or you were just on a mechanical bull. But since you're in England, I don't think that was the case. Kinshiro Online says it's after 2 a.m. in where he is. Well, then go to bed. It's okay, you guys. If you go to bed, that's all right. That's okay. You know, because we'll answer it just the same. Mark Cloud asks, how expensive is it living in California? Well, that depends on what part of California you're talking about. Where I live in San Diego, California, and San Diego can vary. A single-family home can range from $100,000 up to, there's some houses near me that go for more than $1 million, and they're fairly modest houses. So it really depends on what part of California you're talking about. If you follow the Full Metal Vegas program, and if you don't, I recommend that you go through and check it out. There's a bunch of videos on this channel, and go look through all of them and watch the Full Metal Vegas videos. You'll see that California is largely desert. And I shouldn't say largely, but probably about a good 40% of it is desert. And the people that live in the desert are sad, sad people because they live in the desert. It's hot. But desert housing really throws off that figure. You can find houses in the desert now for 2 and 3 bedroom houses for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. So, and it really depends. Plus, there's the cost of living. I'm fortunate enough to drive a vehicle that gets very good gas mileage, so the cost of fuel, and because where we live and we're not as close to Los Angeles as we once were, car insurance has fallen, so there's that. But as far as overall living, it just depends on where precisely, because California is funny. There's a lot of people here, and our resources are stretched a bit. Sorry, I had to be graphic with this stretch thing. Mark Cloud says, I'm a minister and an atheist at the same time. Well, yeah, I'm a minister. I minister to people, and in fact, what I'm doing right now is a form of ministering in some way, but yes, but I'm more of a minister in terms of a wedding officiant. I do give atheistic advice. That's interesting because I do have some friends that I guess come to me as atheists, and I try and provide them the best life advice. If they really feel that they need advice from me, I try and do that as best I can. But most of my ministering is done wedding officiating, and I do a number of weddings. Mostly Halloween weddings. That's my specialty. But yes, and maybe you are thinking of the definition of a minister. I'm not a priest. I'm not a rabbi. I'm not a pastor. Really has more to do with, well, pastor is something you put in a taco, but a pastor has more to do with your trusting of that individual or taking that individual into your confidence. Ministering essentially means officiating certain ceremonies. And the ceremonies that I happen to officiate are atheistic in origin. So let me see here. Nicholas Kennedy says he can't even draw a stick figure. Well, then don't go to art college, and there are other places where you can prey on girls with big boobs. I tell some, if you like girls with big boobs, don't worry. McDonald's is winning the war against obesity. In that they're fighting on the side of obesity. And so there'll be lots of girls with large breasts for a very long time. The Sigma Sean says it's a girl on his campus who looks exactly like you. Well, I am a handsome guy, so that doesn't really surprise me. And apparently she doesn't have a beard, so hey, go for it. If she's got, if she's got bigger arms, though, tread lightly. That's the best I can offer. But yeah, I mean, if you want to go for it, Sean. I mean, if you're thinking about me while you're doing that, I guess I'm flattered. Sort of, kind of, maybe, not really. I don't know. But either way. It's your life. You do what you want. Kid171 has a long question. I'm going to read it out loud so it doesn't look like I'm just gawking at the screen. He says, do you think that after a game has been out for a certain length of time and had a decent sales run and doesn't bring in much money anymore, should it be released into the public domain? Well, let's examine his whole post here. He says, I have been thinking about this as of late. I know this isn't how it works as of now, but I have been thinking about it, and since it is done with other things, why shouldn't games be too? Of course, the developers and publishers Might not want to do it. The biggest obstacle, I think. Well, see, that's interesting that you've brought that up. As far as public domain, that has to do with the expiration of copyright domain over a private or supposed protected work. Do I think they should go into the public domain? No. I'm not really in favor of copyright law. I don't think anyone should have to do anything. Because realistically, and I hear that people have to do this, the thing that you're really mandated to do in this life is to, stay the color you are, die, and pay taxes. Those are the only things that you really have to do, and the things that they will do their best to get them out of you. They want you dead because they can charge you taxes on that too. But anyway. No, I don't think they should fall into the public domain. I'm not in favor of copyright law because I'm very much opposed to copyright law because I think that is law. I'm from New England. I'm very much opposed to copyright law because I feel that is an abuse of your tax dollars and an abuse of the many potentially fortuitous uses of government. I find that government could be used for far more than trying to enforce morality, and also I'm against copyright law because there is so much workforce dedicated to maintaining the idea that it is the government's job to enforce intellectual property, and I'm not in favor of that. So, but should they be even forced to fall into the public domain? Whatever. No, I don't think so. But I'm just not in favor of copyright law at all. So. Havel the Rock says, have you ever played old 90s first-person shooter games? Of course! I come from the era of Wolfenstein, and after that was Doom. And they were so neat for the time. Now looking back, they're still cool for what they are, but unfortunately, I just don't feel like that genre has really grown. It makes me sad. It really does. Chill wants to know, do you prefer yourself standard tuning or drop tuning? Depends on the song. It really does. For instance, in Dracone, we tune to standard E, A440 concert pitch, whereas in Crepitus, we tune to a C-sharp tuning. And the other guitar player in Crepitus, Ryan Colgan, and myself, we toyed with the idea of 7- and 8-string guitars, but never got around to it. We may on the next Crepitus album, if we can ever get it going again. Just certain people need to, get over one thing or another. Pardon me, the 8-bit belch there. Oh, excuse me, I'm terribly sorry. Pyroclasm says if you could get a second main console after the Wii U, which console would you get? Have you watched my show before? I have dozens of consoles, and if you mean of the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, why would it have to be one of those three? That's a real problem in the terms of the internet and the way it sees gaming. It sees gaming as only these three individuals, and that's why indie developers can't get over. Because for some reason, people lock themselves into this perception of the way things are supposed to be. The video game industry is supposed to be Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft. And if anybody else tries to work into that, they get the Spanish Archer, the elbow, back out the door. The same way that politics are supposed to be Democrat and Republican. The same way soft drinks are Pepsi and Coca-Cola. The same way that wrestling is heels versus baby faces. It's this idea of it's us versus them, when in fact it's them versus you. It's not healthy to think in that terminology and to confine yourself to that grouping because you left out Steam, because soon there's not going to be PC space, console space. Right now the Vita is, I was going to say the Vita and the 3DS are holding their own against the mobile market, but really the Vita's not holding its own against anything, which is really a shame because it's a fancy piece of equipment, but that's its major failing, is that it's a fancy piece of equipment. Would you want to take a fancy piece of equipment out of the house where there are other disgusting people? I know I don't. You know, I had the same problem with the 3DS until I found out the 3DS was tough, and I got a good carry sleeve for it. But that's neither here nor there. Because pretty soon, once that they figure this whole goddamn Steam box mess out and figure out how that's going to work, there's gonna be more people in that scene. It's not gonna be the gap is slimming. The wedge between those is slimming. And pretty soon, all those hardcore gamers are going to be all in that same space. Prepare for that. If you mean another modern console, I've talked about this before. I would say, I guess the PlayStation 4, but the PlayStation 4 has given me no reason whatsoever to invest my money into what they have. I don't like the controller. I think that the machine itself looks like crap. I think that goes along with my growing displeasure with the PlayStation brand in that it cannot admit to itself that it's a toy that plays games with people. It has to be this almost personal computer, and it's been that way for, hold on a second, at least 15 years, and that's ridiculous. That's laughable, and I think it's awful. So, the Xbox One has actually given me only one reason to buy it. That's Scalebound by Platinum Games. And so it's winning. But would I get the Xbox One? No. I don't understand this, why people feel that need that, they would only have two machines. Buy as many machines as you see fit, but understand that that's going to have a real effect on your electric bill. Just like this is having an effect on my electrical bill right now, but once again, that's something that could make its way into another show for another time. We don't want to get hung up on that. Let me see here. Let me see. Have I ever considered getting a Carbon? Have I ever considered... I was talking with Mrs. Yellkaos about this. A good friend of hers, or an old friend of hers, her father worked for Carbon. They're just a little bit south of here in San Diego, California, and a little bit north in Santa Ana and up in Covina. But... have I ever thought? Yeah, I've thought about getting a Carbon amplifier mostly, but Carbon, they make some great products. Unfortunately, they just don't make a product for me. I find that cheap imported guitars just seem to do the job for me. I've never had a need for a handcrafted instrument. But if I ever was going to have a handcrafted instrument done, I would buy a Carbon. I would buy a Carbon used because I'll tell you this right now, for those of you thinking about it, there's a lot of budding guitar players that all they really want, there's kids that just want to be endorsed and have a signature series guitar. And understand this, if you ever have a custom guitar made for yourself, understand it's going to cost you thousands. $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, lots of money. And when you need to turn around and sell it, God forbid, you will get less than a quarter back on your investment, and which is it's a real shame. But yeah, Carbon, I've thought about it, but they just I'm happy with the instruments I have, and if I ever came across a Carbon for cheap, heck yeah, because Carbon makes great instruments. But yeah, no, I like Carbon, I really do. They really vary throughout the years, and that's what's really neat about them. Lewis William wants to know, am I a fan of Danzig? The band? Sure. The guy? I never met. No, I take that back. I did. I didn't meet him, but I saw him in Olvera Street in East LA. And I said, and my buddy asked me to shut up because he thought it was going to make Glenn Danzig mad. I'm like, yeah, I'm worried about what fucking 47-year-old Glenn Danzig thinks at the time. I forget how old he was. Cal the Other Horse wants to know who framed Roger Rabbit. It was Judge Doom, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Judge Doom. And the Cutie Bear's here. She says she's late. Well, that's all right, darling. Kit171 wants to know, do I like stuff put out by Image Comics, and do I like the style of Rob Liefeld? Or Liefeld. I forget. I think I like Rob Liefeld. Image, some of their stuff. I don't read any of the Image stuff like in serial, meaning like I have to read an arc, bit by bit, like all the Spawns or whatever. One I liked they did was a corny one called Altered Image. I like that one, which you can find at the Dollar Tree a lot these days because apparently it didn't sell very well. Yeah, but stuff like that. I appreciate it for what it is and what it did for um, at what it did for comics at the time. Because it was kind of that new grit. They were kind of like the ECW of their time. I think it was a bit violent for what it was, and it was obviously to catch the eye. Unfortunately, that's really all it did. So it's a real shame. Thomas Middleton wants to know what I think of Let's Players. Well, I guess I'm not a Let's Player, so I don't know if my commentary counts, but whatever. If that's what they do, there are some people that have a huge following that, for me are not terribly interesting, but I guess it depends on the game. I guess if that's what they choose to do with it, if they're making money, whatever, you know. I don't trust those people because when they do that, they're essentially saying that, hey, I am a billboard that is just blank right now. Please install your cash here. So, but if they seem like honest folks, whether they're honest folks or not, if you like watching them, cool. It's just not my thing. There's some people that I watch and some people that I don't. Keldy the Horse says that gamers are nocturnal creatures. That's not entirely true. Maybe the 8, 9, 10 guys that you talk to in the forums, but that's not true. You got to realize that most of when you talk about gamers and the people buying games are made up of people that you hate called casuals. Those are the ones that are, filling in a lot of this. And they're people that work regular, everyday jobs. Don't get me wrong, they're probably fuckers, but, that's just the way things are. Let me see. Lone Wolf Warrior 93 says writing is one of his favorite hobbies aside from gaming, but wants to know if he should pursue a writing career. I don't know. Are you any good at it? If you think you're good at it, go for it. But also understand there's a lot of competition in that realm. But I really feel that if you can get up there and tell the truth, people will gravitate to you. Understand that. Because we live in a world that is absolutely drowning in nonsense and, dare I say it, bullshit. There's so many people out there who want nothing more than for you to buy their lie so they can make a quick buck and be gone before you can do anything about it. I try my hardest not to be one of those people. I try to be a straight shooter and tell you the way it is and let you know that there are some decent people on this planet. There are people you can trust. I don't recommend it, but the option is there if you need it. And I hope that, I'm glad that there's young people that watch this program, and I know I'm twisting the question to prove, I shouldn't say prove, but to illustrate a point. But I'm glad that there's young people that watch and don't get as cynical, and because I guess you kind of need to be in this day and age. A lot of people call me cynical, and I figure, what choice have I? But I'm glad that there's young people that watch, and when I say young people, I mean there's teenagers and so on, people in high school, obviously, because those are the people that play the games. But I want you to understand that it's not all bad. But as far as writing, there's a lot of people in that arena, and the problem is people who pay people to write are not interested in your journalistic integrity. They want to sell copies of whatever it is that they sell. So, but if you've got the nerve and you can tell the truth and you can do the thing, or if you're a creative writer, they need that. If you're a creative writer, then yes, by all means, and you feel that you've got it, go out and give it a shot. However, if you get shot down, if you get shoved down and told to fuck off and that you're no good, well, then you're going to have to expect that. But if you know in your heart and you believe that what you're doing is right, then fuck anybody who says different. Go out there and do that thing. That you can take to the bank as well. And I honestly believe that. Havel the Rock wants to know if I've ever heard of the Young Turks. I have. I've come across them once or twice, and I think they're a couple of big bags of, well-tanned hot air. Let me see here. Let me see. The Cutie Bear wants to know, what would I do if the CEO of GameStop called me tomorrow and offered me his job as CEO? Well, you can't do that, I'm pretty sure. a board of trustees of a company that large would never let something like that happen. But because you forget that the CEO is selected by a board of trustees. It's not just one guy lording over everything. And there's a lot of people's money, other people's money tied up in that. Realistically, what would I do differently? Close stores. Close lots of stores. Not all of them, but close lots of stores and reshift the focus to, I don't know, I'd really have to sit down because I don't know their financial situation. I know that there's far too many of them and they smell like balls and feet. So I don't know all of their problems and how to fix it, but if someone were to, I'm pretty sure I could do a halfway decent job, at least in the short term. And once I figured out that I couldn't fix it, I do everything I could to make money for about a year and then bail and pass it off to somebody else. And put that money in an interest-bearing savings account, and hopefully it'll gain a little money. Maybe invest. But yeah, I would really have to see what's what they've got in their boat before I would really want to speculate on that. And I try not to speculate on things of that nature. Red Blaze 57 wants to know, are there any games I'm tired of hearing how bad they are? Yes, I'm tired of hearing how bad E.T. is. It's not that bad. There are so many games that get beaten up because there are so many people, and a lot of them are your people that just do the pickup videos, because a lot of people love to exhibit their opinion. But it's one thing to have an opinion. It's another to have a completely manufactured viewpoint, and you're simply going along with the rest of the pond, and that doesn't help anybody. But yeah, there's lots of games that I'm tired of hearing how bad they are, and I can't think of. Pac-Man for the 2600 is not that bad. It's not that good either, but it functions. There are worse games out there. So I'm trying to think of a game that sucks. That's a really good example of a game like Kasumi Ninja. You know what I really want to do? I want to poison the well on Atari Jaguar games. I appreciate the Jaguar for what it is, even though it's not a real 64-bit system. It was never anything it really claimed to be. And some of the prices are kind of creeping up. At least they were a few years ago. They may be. I actually have some price listing from a few years ago, and I want to see if they've changed at all. But I really want to spread around how much those games suck. And a lot of people, there's people like me that want to see how badly they suck. I know there's some decent games, but I just want to get the prices down on the Jaguar, but mostly so I can, get one, because I'm not paying those kind of prices. Nicholas Kennedy wants to know if I've ever tried the Brutal Doom mod. Yes, when it first came around into my neighborhood, because there wasn't an internet to pass that stuff around, not on the consumer level anyway. So when we found out about that, I don't remember much about it, but I remember doing it. Let me see. Melphis Guy wants to know who is my favorite indie developer. If you mean individual developers, I couldn't tell you, but my favorite indie developer studios are Renegade Kid and Level 5. I enjoy their work very much. Yacht Club Games, I think, are doing some great work. Fuzzy Wuzzy Games are doing some neato things. Who else? That's all I can think of for right now. If I remember anybody else, if it springs to mind, I'll let you know. Let me see here. What do I think of Sony stating they don't know why PS4s are selling? I think they know exactly why PS4s are selling, and that's also if that's a tell of another kind, if you really think about it. Kenshiro Online wants to know if I like Iggy Pop. I think Iggy Pop is okay. Maniac wants to know what I think of Japanese power metal. Depends on the band. I like that band X Japan, but I don't know if they're really a power metal band. They're more of that visual ki Could I yell at the PC Master Race? There is no PC Master Race. That is an illusion. That's like the Illuminati. Not unlike the Bilderberg Group, though. Let me see here. Kid171 wants to know if I've been to the Laguna Seca racetrack. The Laguna Seca racetrack is actually is not a fixed track. It's comprised of cities over that way in Los Angeles, city streets. So I think anyway, I could be mistaken, but no, I don't. I think that's how that works. So, but no. Kelly the Horse wants to know my thought on The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Are you talking about that movie with the spy? I don't give a shit about movies. Sorry. William Perinero says, have I played Shovel Knight yet? Yes, I have. I enjoy Shovel Knight. Let me see here. We got some people getting here late. I'm sorry about that, but you know, we'll be back again on Thursday because I know we're getting towards the end of our program, and I really appreciate everybody coming by. But we'll be back. We'll be back later in the week on Thursday. So join us for Chaos Tonight on Thursday. But I want to get a few more of these out of the way, and then you know, we'll get out of your hair. But once again, appreciate everyone for stopping by right here on Chaos Tonight. Dark Cloud says, what's my prediction about AAA gaming toward the middle of the 8th gen? What do you see the AAA market looking like compared to now? I think that we're going to see a lot more horror games in the next couple of years. That's very apparent because just look at the amount that are coming out now in such a short span of time. I think there'll be a lot more of that. I really don't know. I think the problem is I think that much like the way that wrestling is trying very hard to appeal to the indie wrestling audience, which is realistically a fraction, you know, a sizable fraction, but a fraction of their audience. I think the major publishers are getting this idea that they're going to start going after indie-styled games in that they're going to be big budget games, but in popular indie genres. I think they're going to miss the mark on some, and some will, you know, might set the market on fire. So it won't be like this for long. Just all the shooters and the racing games, that won't be like that forever. In a couple of years, keep an eye on the indie market though, because the stuff you're going to see the return of the platformer to the AAA market. Not in a huge way, but more so outside of just your typical Mario, Donkey Kong platformers. You're going to see a little bit more of that. Not that they're taking off of Nintendo, even though they always do, because that's a smart bet. It's smart to see what Nintendo's doing, because even though Nintendo's been wrong a few times, they've been right a lot of times too. So, but yeah, it's going to change, but it won't be because of Nintendo. And Nintendo will influence it in a way. I know they will. But it'll be because they're trying to appeal to the indie games crowd, which I don't understand that, because it, as I talked about on Chaos Tonight last week about the Nintendo GameCube and how the Nintendo GameCube was a great system with a tragic misstep by the marketing of that system, in that they tried to appeal to the hardcore gamer, which was a smaller audience at the time. They attempted to grow their audience by appealing to a smaller demographic, and that doesn't really work. That's just simple mathematics. So now they're going to try and appeal to the uber cool, which is people they believe are I think they get this idea that the mainstream wants to be on with what's cool. The mainstream doesn't give a shit about being cool. The mainstream wants entertainment, no matter where they get it. You know, they can be duped into cool only so many times. You know. And the only reason that they get any traction at all is because kids just because of the suppression of information, and they count on the fact that people are dumb. So, but yeah, it's going to change. It's going to drift more towards what the indies are doing right now, because the indies really are just doing what was popular when they were kids. That's So it's going to come full circle. You watch in a couple of years. And hopefully I'm right, and if I'm right, I'm going to refer you right back to this show in a few years. And we'll still be doing Monday Night Chaos by then, I'm sure. But hopefully the show will look a little bit better than it does. But yeah, that's what my prediction. I think 8th gen gaming is really going to skew. The budgets will get a little bit smaller. They better. They really better. Otherwise, they're going to. I'm in favor of small layoffs now rather than big layoffs later. That's what I'm angling towards. So budgets need to drop a little bit. Budgets will drop, and you'll see it. The AAA market of now is, the AAA market of a few years from now will definitely reflect the indie market of today. I'm going to tell you that right now. So there's that. Foamy Fan says, is he the only one who thinks that the indie horror games released today are becoming cliche? They are, because they're trying to latch on to the last bit of this zombie thing. But really, I feel that horror movies or horror games that are being introduced are just the tip of the iceberg. I think that just like with first-person shooters a few years ago, the cream will rise, and there's going to be some real good. There's going to be a bunch of stinky titles coming out, and hopefully not too many people are wasting money on that sort of thing, so that way the cream can rise even faster. Let's get the real talented people on the projects that are worth time, as opposed to I really hate this, but I would hate to see it happen again like it did a few years ago. A bunch of people who know something about computers and apparently got duped into going to college to learn how to make video games, scrambled to put a studio together with ill-gotten money just to make money on a fad. Let's get some real people, because if you notice, movies have never had to rely on that. A good movie will shine through all of the BS. So if everyone will just focus their efforts and quit looking to make a quick cash grab, there's going to be some proper titles coming out. The cheap stuff that's cliche will fall away. And hopefully the big-time studios will be smart to snatch up some of these people and quit suing the people that are making the Resident Evil remakes on their own. Hire those people. And all those people that are doing that, don't sue them, hire them. And then we'll get a whole new fresh crop of developers, and then gaming will thrive again. Because if you haven't noticed, one of the real problems is it's the same old corporate men running the show. And that's why it's stagnating. But we're coming out of that. I hope. Talking about carvings, only $2,400. Depends on what you want as far as carvings. Yeah, but I've got $40 guitars that play pretty damn well. Because your guitar, a lot of it is your setup. Just like kids who worry about pedals and amplifiers when they're in the studio, what you're listening to on a record is largely mic placement and EQ and room acoustics. Similarly with your guitar. A lot of your guitar is your setup. Don't get me wrong, the wood matters, but the electronics can fool the ear. Not completely, but it can get you where you need to be. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars on a decent instrument, if that's all you're looking for is a decent instrument. Josh Baum wants to know, am I interested in Mario Party 10? Yes, I am! Unfortunately, I didn't get Mario Party 9, so I'll get it after Mario Party 9. I like those games. Those are fun. Everyone expects those games to make a statement of some kind. It's like, it's Mario and his friends, and they're playing a board game. If you don't like it, then don't buy it. And everyone's talking about how, they're diverting resources to make that. It's like, they've got plenty of people working there, don't worry. Calm your titties, everything will be fine. Maniac wants to know if I checked out AudioServe. Yes, I have. I checked that out. It's kind of interesting. Reminds me very much of Guitar Hero and that sort of thing. But neat. Thank you for showing me that. I'm not really interested in playing it myself, but really neat. So I thank you for that. Melva Sky wants to see a new RPG boom. I don't know if we're going to see that because all those franchises are moving to the mobile market right now. And probably not making very much money either. So. If we do, cool. If not, there's always Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem, which will be out eventually. So there's that. And Mark Claus says, will Chaos tonight get as many seasons as The Simpsons? We're going to try our very hardest. That's interesting to me, as a matter of fact. I wanted to talk about that. I brought that to Mrs. Yellkaos' attention when we were out shopping one day. I said, isn't it funny that our favorite show when we were kids is still on? That's disgusting. Or very fortunate for them, those rich bastards. But anyway, that's fantastic. But yes, we'll do everything we can to keep Chaos Tonight on the air as long as we possibly can until Google decides that they've had enough of my shit. Anyway, thank you, folks. That's my time. I got to get out of here. I really appreciate each and every one of you for coming out. As I say every single week, because we are live answering your questions and bitching about what I want to bitch about every single week right here on Monday Night Chaos. So I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out. I want to remind you to follow me on the Facebook, follow me on the Twitter, and I want to remind you to don't worry about the future. Fix your present, fix your reality, and the future will sort itself out. That's my words of wisdom for tonight. I also want to remind you that each and every one of you is beautiful, and I want to also remind you to take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And we'll see you on Thursday. Bye-bye.